The DSU Institute of Politics and Public Affairs hosted a panel discussion around the Dixie name change for the university. The panel included the Vice President of Marketing, local attorneys, student body president, and the President of Faculty Senate. Discussions began around a study put out by the Cicero Group last year that the Board of Trustees based their unanimous decision upon. It has to do with what's in the name Dixie, especially when it comes to branding to those from out of state.
If you look at strong support for the name versus strong opposition for the name, it's 12-1 in this community. 12-1. That is stronger than it was in 2013.
This is not a popularity study, and let me explain that. This is the impact of a word on certain groups. If it was merely, if we went out to the local community and said, do you like the name Dixie? That would have been a one-question survey, would have been simple, and you would have got those numbers. That's not what we were looking for.
Like what Jordan said, for any organization, if they find that even a few percent of people are offended by their brand, it's like, why would you do that? Because you have a choice. So why would you alienate any customers just over a name?
Regardless of what's been said here, Apple is not going to change their name. McDonald's isn't going to change their name. Neither is Coca-Cola, and so on, even if they have a lot of resistance. And sometimes the resistance helps promote the name.
Some in the audience questioned how Cicero described the word Dixie in the study.
But they used words like pioneers. They used words like cotton. They used black faces. They used South/Confederacy. That's the names they use. And then Dr. Sharp used the analogy of Apple computer. So if Cicero was doing the same for Apple as they did for Dixie, they would use the word to identify Apple like rotten, green, wormy words. And what would people then think of the word apple?
However, the numbers do suggest that the name Dixie has an adverse effect on African American students.
Moving forward, we're seeing that brands tied to the Confederacy are being changed, despite their strength. And this will be a little controversial. Aunt Jemima had the largest, no one else was even close to them in market value and in how much syrup they were peddling. No one even came close. And yet that group said, looking further down the road, made a stand. Is it fair to say McDonald's or Apple? No, I don't think they will be changing because they don't have the roots in the Confederacy.
When it comes to Dixie, I have to say that I am from Georgia. So I come from the place that was originally the Dixie, where the Confederacy was. Black history, African American history, Georgia history is my background in my studies. And I do know what Dixie means in that area. It is very difficult to explain to people when you do go to conferences, your family, your friends, that you live in or work at Dixie State, and what that means. It's the fear of what are the type of people that you're living with, that they really are holding true to that name.
Many longtime residents disagree with the name change and believe education is the key to overcoming any future problems.
Look at the name Dixie and apply it through history. It is not the term that I think you're giving it the credit for. Dixie does not represent the Confederacy. There's a thing called Utah's Dixie.
Dixie Lumber to Dixie Drug to Dixie Names. This is a name that has energy, and it's a productive name over many, many years. I think you just don't want to disturb a really good thing. Don't call it something it isn't.
Utah's Dixie, right? That was our name. That was what, and to me, it's associated with their sacrifice, and so it's so important to me. So I'm proud, right? If somebody judges me for having Dixie on my diploma, right? My personal, what I would say is like, well, then you don't, right? Then I don't want to work for you.
But others believe it's past the point of educating others on the definition of the name.
I want everyone to know the university that I go to. I want everyone to know. I want everyone to be proud of the university because of how proud I am of it. But that's not the case. Students don't do that. Alumni don't wear the apparel, and that is not good for a brand. That's not like, that shouldn't be a thing.
Thank you.
Educating, we've tried it before, but this is like a stain on a shirt. You tried washing it off, there's a huge stain on there, right? Once someone points it out and you're still wearing the same shirt, it's really hard to look away from that stain. So it's time to get a new shirt, is what I would say.
We have to be very honest and transparent that the numbers do say that the number does have a very huge negative impact for African American students. Now, that does not mean that they can't overcome it. It just means that it's an added burden or barrier that comes up.
I definitely think that Dixie has an implied meaning that is nationally different than the understanding that the community has. And so in those discussions, I have had a lot of people question the credibility of the university.
While many don't want to lose sight of their local history, others want to preserve their chances for employment in the future.
Dixie State or Dixie College, that's their college. They associate it with the name. It's something that means so much to them. When you change it and abandon it and insinuate that that history was wrong and that they were racist back then, and you don't instead try and correct the things moving forward with the name, they feel abandoned and they're going to have a tendency to walk away.
When we're announced to a room full of people, they say, this person is from Dixie State University. And so in a very real way, we wear the Dixie uniform. We are on the front lines of Dixie versus the world. And we feel the brunt of that. You know, we're the ones that get bloodied and beat up, you know, because of the name.
So there are lots of reasons, but we can't blame our shortcomings on a name. And so that's one of the things that concerns me here, because I hear that in the narrative, and I'm concerned that we shouldn't be that weak at this point.
Now, at the end of the day, we can say what we want about the brand and the percentages, and if it's hurting enough. A brand name should never hurt one of our students. It should not even be in the equation.
My memories of Dixie State are not going anywhere, and they will continue. I still have a little ways of school left to go, but the name is impacting the students, and that's what it's about.
Brown said that the Institute had to move quickly on putting on this event.
The issue here is that the state legislature started convening on the 19th. The issue is with them. We don't know how fast they're going to move on it. So we had to move fast on this event. And so we'll do our best to tackle it in the future when something comes up. It certainly could use a lot more exposure.
From Dixie State University, Melissa Anderson, Community Education News.